Hi dear students, you are welcome in this video. Dear students, we have started a series on the previous question papers of NET examination, and this is July 2018 NET question paper. We have covered so far 75 questions or multiple choice questions in the last videos. Now here we will continue 25 more questions in the same series, and here we have 76 to 100 questions, and you can check your knowledge based on these MCQs which were asked in the previous question papers. And now dear students, you can do one thing, that take a pen and paper and write down option, and before that option write down your answer, and at the end of video you can calculate your score, and please comment that score in the comment section. So let's start with the question number 76. In 1660, a group of 12 people including Robert Boyle and Christopher Wren formed what they called the Royal Society. In 1663 it became the Royal Society of London for Improving Natural Knowledge. What was the society's motto? And options are: number 1, in him we trust; number 2, in the words of no one; number 3, lighted to lighten; and number 4, love conquers all. Now dear students, just do one thing. You can take a pen and paper and just write down question number 76, and before that question number, whatever your option is, just you have to write that option, and after completing all the questions you can calculate your score. I will provide you answers immediately. Just if you answer this question correct, just then correct your marked question number and go ahead. Now the correct option is number 2, in the words of no one. Next question 77, of whom did W.B. Yeats say that we were the last romantics? And options are: 1, the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood; number 2, the Imagist poets; number 3, his friends in the Irish Literary Revival; and number 4, himself and his lady love Maud Gonne or Maud Gonne. And the correct option is number 3, his friends in the Irish Literary Revival. 78, who wrote The Wandering Jew, a poem in 4 cantos, and the short lyric The Wandering Jew's Soliloquy? And option is number 1, S.T. Coleridge; number 2, Lord Byron; number 3, Thomas Gray; and number 4, P.B. Shelley. And the correct option is number 4, P.B. Shelley. 79, where according to T.S. Eliot are we likely to find not only the best but the most individual parts of a poet's work? And options are: number 1, in the poet's juvenilia or rejected drafts; number 2, in the best anthologies and scrapbooks; number 3, in those parts where the dead poets assert their immortality; and number 4, in those parts where the living poets depart from their ancestors. And the correct option is number 3, in those parts where the dead poets assert their immortality. 80, which of the following is true of Canterbury Tales? There are 4 statements and we have to recognize the true statement regarding the Canterbury Tales. 1, Chaucer the Pilgrim narrates Sir Thopas' tale only. Number 2, Chaucer the Pilgrim narrates the tale of Melibee only. Number 3, Chaucer the Pilgrim narrates both Sir Thopas' tale and the tale of Melibee. Number 4, Chaucer the Pilgrim does attempt to narrate an unnamed tale but abruptly stops due to the intervention of the other pilgrims. So we have narrated the story in the Canterbury Tales, and the correct option is number 3, Chaucer the Pilgrim narrates both Sir Thopas' tale and the tale of Melibee. So there are tales in the Canterbury Tales, 27 tales are there, and among these 27 tales, Chaucer narrated 2 tales, the Sir Thopas' tale and the tale of Melibee. 81, during the reign of Norman kings, it was fashionable to speak dash in upper class circles in England: 1 Norse, 2 Latin, 3 Danish, and 4 French. And the correct option is number 4, French. 82, who among the following collaborated with Purohit Swami in translating 10 principal Upanishads into English? Number 1, Christopher Fry; number 2, Aldous Huxley; number 3, Lawrence Durrell; and number 4, W.B. Yeats. And the correct option is number 4, W.B. Yeats. 83, what unique distinction does Ben Jonson's 2 pen shirt have in English literary canon? Number 1, it is the only distinguished poem in English addressed to the Lords of Penshursts. Number 2, It celebrates Philip Sidney's elevation to knighthood, Sidney being the youngest scion of the family. Number 3, it is one of the first English poems celebrated a specific place, a forerunner to Cooper's Hill and Windsor Forest. Number 4, it is the first poem in an elegiac series that late Elizabethan poets began on the demise of the Lord of Penshurst. And the correct option is number 3. It is one of the first English poems celebrated a specific place, a forerunner to Cooper's Hill and Windsor Forest. 84. It is well known that in many of his plays, Tom Stoppard has consciously drawn upon earlier, often reputed works. Match the following Stoppard plays with earlier works whose spirit seems to have informed them. Here we have the works of Tom Stoppard, and we have to just draw upon his earlier plays, earlier works. A. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. B. Indian Ink. C. Inspector Hound. And D. Travesties. And here we have options. Number 1, Hamlet. Number 2, A Passage to India. Number 3, The Mousetrap. And number 4, Importance of Being Earnest. And here we have codes. Very first, 1, A is to 3, B is to 2, and C is to 1, and D is to 4. Like this, just you have to recognize the correct combination, and the correct combination is number 2. Now A is to 1 here, like this. This is the correct combination. Again, it is based on the same number. C is to 4, like this, and travesties is to 3. So this is the correct combination. 85. After discovering the truth about his heinous crimes committed in the past, what does Oedipus request as his punishment? Number 1, exile. Number 2, castration. Number 3, decapitation. And number 4, blindness. And the correct option is exile. 86. How does Women in Love open? Number 1, Rupert Birkin, Lawrence's alter ego, is taking a walk in the English countryside. Number 2, the Brangwen sisters, Ursula and Gudrun, are working and talking. Number 3, the wedding party gathers at Shortlands, the Creche's home. And number 4, the last lesson is in progress, peaceful and still, in Ursula's classroom. And the correct option is number 2, the Brangwen sisters, Ursula and Gudrun, are working and talking. 87. Samuel Johnson has the following to say about an English poet. So about whom Samuel Johnson made this statement? These images are marked by glittering accumulations of ungraceful ornaments. They strike rather than please. The images are magnified by affectation. The language is labored into harshness. The mind of the writer seems to work with unnatural violence, double, toil and trouble. He has a kind of strutting dignity and is tall by walking on tiptoe. His art and his struggle are too visible, and there is too little appearance of ease and nature. Identify the poet. And you have 4 options. Number 1, Thomas Gray. Number 2, John Dryden. Number 3, John Milton. And number 4, Thomas Watt. And the correct option is number 1, Thomas Gray. He says regarding Thomas Gray, this statement is about Thomas Gray, made by Samuel Johnson. 88. Take the smoking disclaimer issue begins Vishal Bhardwaj. Putting a disclaimer every time somebody smokes on screen is not an answer. If M.F. Hussain had painted a man with a cigar, would you have asked him to put the disclaimer, cigarette smoking is injurious to health, on the painting? The point Bhardwaj makes with his rhetorical question is the following. What is the point made by Vishal Bhardwaj? And options are number 1, the smoking disclaimer is ineffectual because M.F. Hussain's painting wouldn't have carried it. Number 2, the smoking disclaimer on objects perceived as art is simply superfluous. Number 3, the smoking disclaimer is ineffectual because art entertains but does not instruct. Number 4, the smoking disclaimer on screen or on M.F. Hussain's painting distracts us from enjoying art. Now what is the correct option? And here you find it's a very simple question, and you find that Answer number 4. The smoking disclaimer on screen or on an M.F. Hussein's painting distracts us from enjoying art. This is the correct option. And 89. According to dash, certain verbs actually perform an act when they are uttered. Number 1. Speech act theorists such as Austin and Searle. Number 2. Russian formalists such as Slowsky and Prop. Number 3. Language theorists such as Sapir and Wolf. Number 4. Cognitive linguists such as Lakoff and Johnson. And the correct option is, you can fill the place, speech act theorists such as Austin and Searle. 90. Haunted castles, strange noises, and an acceptance of the supernatural with all its trappings mark dash 1. Metafiction, number 2. Fantasy fiction, number 3. Epistolary fiction, and number 4. Gothic fiction. And the correct option is number 4. Gothic fiction. 91. Sure it waits upon some God's own island, sitting on a bank, weeping again the king, my father's rack. This music crept by me upon the waters, allaying both their fury and my passion. With its sweet ear, thence I have followed it, or it hath drawn me rather. Which of the following statements on this passage are true? So we have to recognize the statement. A. These lines spoken by Ager in King Lear are part of a long speech delivered on the heath. B. These lines spoken by Ferdinand in The Tempest describes Ariel's music. Number C. The passage reappears in an altered and ironic version in T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. And D. The passage reappears verbatim in W.H. Auden's Sea and the Mirror. And the correct code is 1. A and D, 2. B and C, 3. C and D, and number 4. A and C. And the correct option is number 2. B and C. So here, these lines spoken by Ferdinand in The Tempest describes Ariel's music is correct. This option. And C. The passage reappears in an altered and ironic version in T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. Arrange the following plays of Shakespeare according to their periods, early, middle, late of composition. Number 1, As You Like It, Love's Labour's Lost, Antony and Cleopatra, The Tempest, Midsummer Night's Dream. Number 2, Antony and Cleopatra, The Tempest, Midsummer Night's Dream, Love's Labour's Lost, As You Like It. Number 3, Love's Labour Lost, Midsummer Night's Dream, As You Like It, Antony and Cleopatra, The Tempest. Number 4, Midsummer Night's Dream, Antony and Cleopatra, The Tempest, As You Like It, Love's Labour's Lost. And the correct option is number 3. Love's first comes this Love's Labour's Lost, then Midsummer Night's Dream, As You Like It, Antony and Cleopatra, and the last is Tempest. So always you should remember that Tempest is the last play. 93. Who among the following is not a reader response critic? And option number 1, Maud Bodkin. 2, Hans Robert Joss. Number 3, Stanley Fish. And number 4, Wolfgang Iser. And the correct option is Maud Bodkin. He is not the reader response critic. Next question, 94. Leo Tolstoy's Anna and Karenina's closing lines present. Number 1, a sad reflection on the unfortunate suicide of Anna, which should have been averted. The enlivening freshness of a rain which has been threatening to break out. Number 3, Levin's affirmation that whatever happens to him, life is not meaningless but unquestionably meaningful. Number 4, Wronski's lament over the death of Anna, which ends on a positive note, affirming the human tendency to pass over the tragic events with hope. And the correct option is number 3, Levin's affirmation that whatever happens to him, life is not meaningless but unquestionably meaningful. 95. Which of the following novels begins with a prologue under the title The Storming of Seringapatam, saying, I address these lines written in India to my relatives in England? Number 1, The Siege of Krishnapur by J.G. Farrell. Number 2, The Moonstone by Vicky Collins. Number 3, The Sign of 4 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And number 4, The Jewel in the Crown by Paul Scott. And the correct option is number 2, The Moonstone by Vicky Collins. 96. In Gerontion, T.S. Eliot says, dash, has many cunning passages, contrived corridors, and issues, deceives with whispering ambitions, guides us by vanities. What is Eliot's subject? Now, what is the subject he is talking about in these lines? Number 1, history. Number 2, politics. Number 3, state. And number 4, religion. And the correct option is history. So, history is the correct option. Next, we have here the poem, and we have to answer question number 97 to 100 based on this poem. So, I read the poem first and then we will go to the questions. The Mountain is the title of poem. Mountain, and it is composed by Lewis Clark. Here is the poet. So I read, my students look at me expectantly. I explain to them what the life of art is, a life of endless labor. Their expressions hardly change. They need to know a little more about endless labor. So I tell them the story of Sisyphus, how he was doomed to push a rock up a mountain, knowing nothing would come to this effort but that he would repeat it indefinitely. I tell them there is joy in this, in the artist's life, that one eludes judgment, and as I speak I am secretly pushing a rock myself, sly, pushing it up the steep face of a mountain. Why do I lie to these children? They aren't listening, they aren't deceived, their fingers tapping at the wooden desks. So I retract the myth. I tell them it occurs in hell, and that the artist lies because he is obsessed with attainment, that he pursues the summit as that place where he will live forever, a place about to be transformed by his burden. With every breath I am standing at the top of the mountain. Both my hands are free, and the rock has added height to the mountain. And now we have questions. Question number 97, whose poetic voice is triggered right from the beginning? Number 1, of students. Number 2, of teachers. Number 3, of critics. And number 4, of an observers. And the correct option is teachers. Now this poem is about a teacher and student. So teacher is just explaining the experiences. 98, the speaker brings up the story of Sisyphus specifically by way of glossing. Number 1, art in life. Number 2, life in art. Number 3, endless labor. And number 4, poetic expectation. And the correct option is endless labor. Pushing a mountain is like endless labor. 99, in its context, the words their fingers are tapping at the wooden desks best represent the students dash. Number 1, lack of protest. Number 2, lack of interest. Number 3, show of disrespect. And number 4, show of impatience. And the correct option is, it's very simple question, and the correct option is lack of interest. And the last question of the series, why does the speaker say that the rock has added height to the mountain? Number 1, because the speaker is already on the top of the mountain. Number 2, because both the hands of the speaker are now free. Number 3, because the mountain now seems largely incomprehensible. And number 4, because she feels that the immensity of the problem has grown. And the correct option is number 1, because the speaker is already on the top of the mountain. So dear students, I hope you understood all the questions and you solved these questions. Please calculate your score, how many points you get in these 25 questions. So we have completed one paper, and we will again make videos on the NET series. So stay tuned and watch Literature Simply. This is enough for this video. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you very much.